All right, guys, welcome to Beyond the Muscle. I'm pleased to welcome our next guest. There is no guest, it is just me today. So, yeah, the plan for this is to do a little solo episode. So, I've been wanting to do this one for a while now, and it's Easter holidays for the kids at the moment. So, yeah, I'm a bit more limited as a bit more limited with when I can book guests in. So yeah, I thought this was a good opportunity to do a little solo episode. So yeah, the topic for this one is going to be my first prep and the lessons that I learned from that first prep because yeah, there were quite a few in all honesty. My first prep was in 2015, and there are some lessons that I learned that could be of value to anyone who's new to competing, or even anyone who's more experienced as well. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that today. But yeah, bit of housekeeping first. So, yeah, thank you guys for all the support with the podcast so far, all the kind messages. Yeah, really means a lot. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. This is kind of my way of kind of giving back to natural bodybuilding, really. So, yeah, been away from the sport for a long time, and yeah, this is a good way of me staying involved and yeah, giving back. And hopefully, these podcasts have been valuable to some people. Yeah, I've had some amazing guests on already. Got some great guests lined up as well for later in the month. And yeah, it's been a ton of fun so far. And yeah, in fact, every episode of each episode has provided me with a guest that said something that's really kind of made me think and yeah, think about things a bit differently. So yeah, it's been a ton of fun and yeah, very much enjoying this process, and I'm hoping you guys are too. So yeah, the whole Beyond the Muscle thing, I quite like the name. So for me, the idea is for me to kind of get to know my guests like a little better, and that's why Beyond the Muscle. I thought it was a good name because yeah, at the end of the day, we're more than just bodybuilders. We like to do other things too, and yeah, that's why I like to do the quick fire questions at the end, just to kind of get to know guests a little bit better. And yeah, I'm fascinated by people. Basically, I love people, and yeah, it's the quick fire questions they're never quick fire. They always last about 10 minutes or so, sometimes more, but it's all a bit of fun. So yeah, thanks again, guys, for all the support. It's been great. Another thing, there'll be a posing workshop for any of you who are listening in the UK on May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day. May the 4th next month. There'll be a posing workshop near the Oxford area, and I'll probably link the details of that in the show notes if I can remember. That workshop is held by Darren Shepherd-Loxton and Dan Sutcliffe. They'll be hosting it, and yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. I'll be going to that. They've both been on the podcast separately, and it'd be great to catch up with those guys again. And yeah, it's Ollie Rumble who's been organising these, and yeah, I think it's great what he's doing, organising these free posing workshops to give back to natural bodybuilding. So yeah, I'm looking forward to attending that. So yeah, if you're in the south of England and you're a natural bodybuilder, like advanced, experienced, new to the sport, never done anything, it doesn't matter. You're probably going to find some value from this one. Yeah, Darren is like a highly regarded coach in natural bodybuilding, and yeah, Dan Sutcliffe, world champion twice, I think now, and yeah, it's gonna be great. Um, so yeah, on to the conversation. So my first prep, 2015, and it was not a typical one really, because I think when you think of a bodybuilding prep, most people's first preps, they're usually kind of just finding their feet. And if they were to look back, they'd probably say that their physique has kind of come a long way since their first prep. Whereas mine, it wasn't really a typical one. See, I'd been training for maybe, I think it was 12 years before I did my first my first contest prep. And yeah, my aim going into it was just to kind of get as shredded as possible. That was the aim, and it was a great experience. So yeah, so when was it? I think it was the year before I decided to compete. So back in 2013, actually, a year before that, I did a diet in 2013, and I got to a the level of body fat where you can just about kind of feel the side effects of being lean, basically. So I got an inkling of what it would be like to get stage lean, but I didn't kind of push it any further. I was probably maybe 4 or 5 kilos away from being truly stage lean. So I did that in 2013. I had a gaining season in 2014, and with the aim of competing in 2015. And it was all going smoothly. So during that time, my inspirations were 3DMJ, so the likes of Alberto Nunez, Jeff Alberts, Eric Helms, Brad Loomis, when they were a four. Um, those guys were great. Matt August was another one who I believe was working with 3DMJ at the time. I think it was Eric Helms for his first prep, and the likes of Lane Norton as well. So yeah, I was absorbing a lot of information from those guys back in 2013 and 2014. Yeah, reading books like Starting Strength and 531. Was it by Mark Ripto? And then it was the Jim Wendler's 531. So incorporating some kind of powerlifting into my training as well. And yeah, training was going well, and I felt like I was in a really good place to start prep. Um, yeah, so like I said before, my aim was just to get as shredded as possible. I had no coach for this, so the aim, I basically did it completely self-coached, and I didn't understand the balance between size and conditioning. I thought, let's just get as shredded as possible, basically. I did have a bit of coaching the year prior, so in 2014, I contacted 3DMJ, and Brad Loomis did some kind of off-season coaching with me, which was really, really good. And yeah, he was officially my first like proper coach, I would say. And we would just catch up every few months. I was planning on using 3DMJ to prep me for 2015, but decided that I wanted to just do the whole thing myself. Um, yeah, so like I said before, I had done a diet prior in 2013, so I kind of had a rough idea of what it was like to get lean, not super lean, but yeah, but lean. And then yeah, what Brad did at the end of 2014 was put me on like a pre-prep diet. So yeah, this was like before they were actually had become popularized, I believe. So yeah, so Brad put me on a pre-prep diet for around 10 weeks, I believe it was, at the end of 2013, 2014, just to tidy things up. So it meant I started prep on January the 1st of 2015 in a really, really good place. And in hindsight, that was probably a little bit too early because I think I was around the 81 kilo mark. So there was, yeah, 9, 10-ish kilos to lose, but I was in a pretty good place. Like most people look at me and say, yeah, he's a lean guy. But yeah, to get into contest shape, obviously you have to get, yeah, extraordinarily lean. So it was, yeah, either way though, I probably started prep a little bit too early. And yeah, I'm going to be going through at the end of this experience some of the key lessons that I did learn in that prep. Um, and some of which will resonate with you guys that have competed before. Some may be new. But yeah, like I said, the aim, just get as shredded as possible. I'd built a decent amount of muscle up to that point anyway, so I was in a good place. And yeah, basically prep started off well. Obviously, I think yeah, all contest prep should start well, really. This was no different in 2015. And yeah, calories were high, I believe around the 2700 mark with no cardio and tracking macros as well. And yeah, I was a big advocate of flexible dieting at the time. So this was when flexible dieting, or IIFYM as it was known then, was very popular. So there you were either in the flexible dieting camp or the clean eating camp, and I was very much in the former. And yeah, there was kind of almost like a battle between those two camps. It was a bit silly, really, in all honesty. But yeah, a big advocate of flexible dieting because yeah, for me it just worked. Yeah, it just I could eat the foods I enjoyed. It was still a mostly minimally processed diet. But yeah, like throughout the whole contest prep, I was still eating things like sweets, chocolate. Meringue nests were a big one back then, so I'd eat a lot of those on my kind of high carb days. And yeah, it was a generally a pretty smooth prep. I also started my YouTube channel back then as well, so it was Ants Bodybuilding and Fitness. I remember back in the day, and yeah, I thought let's just document my progress on YouTube and see how it goes from there. And that was fun as well. And I think I also started my Instagram page probably then as well. Yeah, so the channel was very small, but yeah, documenting my prep like that, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, yeah, and I would talk about like, the side effects of prep as well as I got leaner, and yeah, which is something that yeah, not many people were doing back then as well. And I would also go for my posing, things like that. And the posing was terrible. You can actually go back on this channel because I've kind of repurposed it and look back at some of those early posing sessions, and they're not great. We've come a long way since. Yeah, it was a smoothish prep. I was way ahead of schedule in terms of where I needed to be. And yeah, I was coaching myself and I was definitely on course to bring kind of essentially finals like condition to my qualifier, basically. So as lean as I needed to be and probably more at my first show. But then I knew nothing. That's the thing. I knew nothing about qualifiers, finals, worlds. For me, it was just this is bodybuilding and I compete with the BMBF. So this was the BMBF Southern essentially that I was prepping for because I didn't know of any other federation and they were and they were certainly the biggest and most reputable federation then. And yeah, they're still obviously amazing now, the BMBF. So yeah, the aim for me, get into as freaky condition as possible for that first show. Towards the end of the prep, had some kind of personal stuff that made it a little bit trickier. So yeah, and obviously when you're that lean, things, stress can have an impact on your body, as we all know. But yeah, going into that first show, I certainly felt, yeah, I felt good. So onto peak week, I remember trying a carb depletion, and yeah, I can tell you, doing a carb depletion when you're already kind of stage lean and depleted was not a fun experience. Interestingly, we tried that again last year, me and Josh doing a carb depletion. It wasn't as bad as it was in 2015 because, yeah, when you've got a coach there, that coach can kind of rein you in a little bit. The temptation when you're self-coached, like me and my guests have chatted about actually, is always to dig, 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 push, push, push. And yeah, you can take things way too far, which is something we're going to delve into a little bit here today because yeah, I took things way, way, way too far in that 2015 season. So yeah, I dropped calories too low, just generally speaking. But I knew the look was good. I was very, very lean going into that first show. I had glute striations. Yeah, crazy, crazy vascularity, and yeah, I felt good for sure. So onto the BMBF Southern, it was in Fareham, which is I think is near Southampton, and yeah, I was way, way under carb for that show. So I think I adopted like a 2 day carb up, and then the day before the show, I had like 50 grams of carbs. So yeah, it was silly. I listened to some less than ideal advice going into peak week, which yeah, it certainly had the potential to ruin my look completely. Thankfully, it didn't, and thankfully, I had a good amount of muscle size and fullness yeah to keep things going well. Interesting, yeah. After prejudging, the evening look was on another level. It was so much better. So yeah, obviously, yeah, backstage, I was yeah nervous as everyone is for their first show. It was a novice class, a really big novice class. There were 15. Yeah, there were 15 of us, I believe, and I was number 15. Still got the badge for that show there. And yeah, like I said, whilst I was a novice, certainly novice in bodybuilding, I had been training for 12 years prior. So yeah, I'd accrued a decent amount of muscle tissue for a novice bodybuilder. So yeah, of that class, it was a massive class. There was one guy there who was yeah, let's just say he was a mass monster, a genetic freak, like crazy, crazy structure. Lats that just were hanging down, but he was too soft. And I believe he was actually taken back potentially for a drug test before the show, or and that's what some of the other athletes were saying because he was so massive. So yeah, the kind of physique that's yeah a bit intimidating, especially for a novice as well. It was pretty impressive. But yeah, basically did the class, and I distinctly remember it was hard. Yeah, so the posing, and I unlike last year where I did a lot of posing practice, back in my first season I hadn't, and yeah, it showed. Like the posing wasn't great, but also the posing endurance wasn't great. It was hard work under the hot stage lights. I was dehydrated going into that posing round, and it was just hard. It was hard work. So yeah, we would come back on for the evening show, and yeah, even by that point, my physique had started to look a lot better. So I had some carbohydrates and some other food at that point, and the muscles really started to fill out. It was good, and yeah, I won my class. The guy Tamas, who was the mass monster I was telling you about, he finished second, and yeah, one of AJ's clients, Marcos. who I got quite close with that season as well. He finished in third place, and yeah, it was a great experience. I certainly wasn't expecting to win, but to win was incredible. I remember quickly getting drug tested backstage, and then went on for the overall, and then I won that as well. And yeah, it was an incredible experience. So yeah, like I said, it wasn't your typical first show experience to go in and just win the overall, and I won the best wheels trophy, which the BMBF give out as well for the most developed legs. To win that as well was also incredible. Um, yeah, so I was definitely on a bit of a high after that, and I remember that's when I heard about the finals. So back when I entered this show, I had no idea. I didn't know it was qualifiers, finals. For me, it was just, yeah, it's a bodybuilding show essentially. So I decided to go for the finals in September that year, which was about it was 2 months after, yeah. But straight after that first show, me and my wife went to on holiday, and yeah, I remember gaining around 4 kilos, which yeah, when you're in the midst of concept prep is not great. And I come back home and then in prepping for the finals, I just kept digging and digging and digging, and I pushed things way too far. And yeah, my look started to fade. In my head, I was just chasing low weigh-ins, and I remember I surpassed my lowest body weight, but I didn't look any better. And I remember at the time thinking that's probably not a good thing. See, I'm getting lighter, but I'm not looking leaner. And yes, there was definitely a good amount of muscle loss during that process. I think my stage weight it was in fact from the first show to the second coat is a 1 kilo difference. Um, but a 1 kilo difference when you're already at the bottom end of where you should be is too much, and the look had completely started to fade. Yeah, I remember I almost bailed from the finals completely. The stress of the whole experience. Yeah, it was not doing me any favors, and with myself at least, stress presents itself in a by giving me lots of digestive issues. And yeah, I know digestive issues are quite common in a contest prep, but for me, it almost got too much, and I had to throw in the towel. I did go to the finals. I adopted that same low carb. I did a whole carb deplete, and then the day before low carbs, and yeah, it didn't work this time. I'd lost too much muscle, and obviously this is the finals, so the quality of athlete is a lot better than at the qualifier. I would have placed better for sure had I brought my qualifier physique to the finals. But yeah, whether I would have won or not, who knows? But either way, yeah, things had really got downhill physique wise, and yeah, I didn't place. I didn't place in the finals. And that was it. That was my first season of bodybuilding. So essentially, it was just two shows, a qualifier and a final, an incredible experience, followed by a less than desirable experience. And then a lot of the bad stuff started to happen. So basically, I just didn't know how to. I had no guidance, and I also didn't know how to basically reverse out of a show. So I'd seen some people. I think Lane Norton at the time, he popularized the idea of reverse dieting, which is essentially just coming out of your lowest weight slowly. Okay, and for me, that didn't work. So I tried to do it. Then I would binge, gain a load of weight, and then kind of almost diet. And it was a case of yo-yo dieting for me. So yeah, I was going up and down, up and down. Whereas last year in 2024, I adopted, like I've said before in one of my posts, um, what 3DMJ have termed like a recovery diet, which is where you aim to gain a good chunk of that body weight back in like 5 to 7 weeks. And that worked a lot better for me. Yeah, there was no binging post show. There was a bit of hunger for the first few weeks, but that quickly subsided as my body weight and my body fat started to return. Um, so yeah, the combination of trying to reverse too slowly, it didn't work for me. And then I just basically gained too quickly. So I went from that into just acknowledging the fact that yeah, it's the off season now. I need to gain, but then I gained way too quickly. And I remember I went from 71-ish kilos up for a stage weight to then peaking at around 92 kilos at my heaviest body weight. And yeah, it was way too big, way too big. Yeah, so I'm currently around 84-ish kilos, and this is like I want to kind of sit around this level here in terms of the off season. So yeah, an interesting first season, and there were definitely lessons learned. The idea was to then come back, compete in bodybuilding again in maybe 2017 or 2018. But we had a family, we had kids, and then yeah, it wasn't the right time for me. So yeah, it ended up being a very long off season of 9 years. So I come back last year. But yeah, in terms of the lessons learned, I say the most important one for me. I know this is not the same for every athlete, but at the same time, this is not unique to myself. Is the most important lesson I think is to not sacrifice shape for condition. You're going to get to a point where you've kind of reached as lean as you're going to get, and pushing any more than that is going to have a detrimental look on your physique. It just is. And for me, I was just chasing low scale numbers, chasing condition, and I just looked worse and worse and worse. And I can't emphasize this enough. I looked so much better around 6 to 8 weeks out than I did on my second show. It was just crazy. For the first show, I just about held that look, but for the second show that year, yeah, things just went downhill very rapidly. Um, yeah, it's surprising how bad things can look if you dig too much. So yeah, I'd say that was the most important lesson for me. Another important lesson is to know when to be a bit more reactive when it comes to metrics like the scale. Because I was self-coached, I was just doing this all myself, and obviously very inexperienced at this. I would just cut calories and cut macros when the weight stalled for a week. So whereas now, if I was to go down this self-coached, I would definitely maybe wait 2 to 3 weeks. So if weight would start to stall, what I would do now is to use other metrics, look at the mirror, look at circumference measurements, look at how clothes are fitting, basically comparing photos side to side. But I was far too reactive. And basically, if the weight would stay the same from 1 week to the next, that this is an average weight, by the way, I'd always do an average weight. If the weight would stay the same, I would just drop calories or carbs. So I'd say, let's take 100 calories off this week, or let's take 50 carbs off this week. I was too reactive, a bit too assertive when it comes to making those changes. So yeah, that would definitely, yeah, that's definitely something to be aware of there. And another big one, posing. So my posing was terrible back in 2015. I could hit a great front double bicep. It's always been my favorite shot to hit, and a decent side chest, but that was about it. And yeah, like I've talked about before on previous episodes, I got posing coaching last year, and it was a game changer. It was completely transformed my posing, not just from an endurance perspective, which is super important, but just knowing how to hit each pose because everyone's body is slightly different, and knowing what looks good for you is so important when it comes to bodybuilding. Everyone you should have in your head, like you should start with like a essentially like a blueprint for what each pose looks like, and then make subtle tweaks from there. I'll give my side chest as an example. So a lot of people hit this very differently. So I started to hit it the standard way, leaving a bit of a gap between the back arm. But I found if I closed that gap completely, twisted my torso a little bit more, it made the look a lot better for me. Or the front lower bicep, I find or any front shoulder, in fact, pushing the hips back a little bit really brought out the leg definition more. Little tweaks like this. So yeah, posing is a big one and definitely like an overlooked area, I think, for bodybuilders. But that's something that I definitely learned from 2015 was, yeah, how not to pose almost. Um, Another tip I'd say, another thing I learned, and this is a bit of an interesting one really, and it's yeah, social media. So social media it's a lot bigger back now than it was in 2015, but it was still pretty big then. And I would say it's important if you start to gain like a little bit of a social media presence, is to not let the positive comments get to your head. It's important to stay grounded because I remember, yeah, I would receive a ton of comments saying, "Oh, you look amazing. You're going to smash it. You're going to win. You're going to win this, win that." And eventually you start believing those comments, and that can be a detrimental thing. So I'd say it's so important to stay grounded. Obviously, the negative comments you're going to get as well, take those with a pinch of salt too. But yeah, don't let the comments get to your head. I say that is a big one. And yeah, I was only 31 then. I'm 41 now, Jesus. So I'm a lot more grounded when it comes to that. But yeah, looking back on reflection, that was definitely something that I would do differently now, and that is just to stay grounded, basically. And another one is to make sure you exit the prep, exit that phase correctly. So I spoke to him. I was speaking to Julian Chung, Jack Chan about this on his when he came and joined me on the podcast about his post prep struggles. And yeah, it was similar. It was very much similar for myself. I tried to stay too lean, really struggled with that, and then let go of conditioning. Really struggled to let go of conditioning, and then I just gained too quickly. So I kind of made both post show mistakes in one contest prep. So yeah, I'd say that was definitely one of the lessons learned is to basically have an exit strategy. Okay. Yeah, and for me, the one I would recommend, this is not the same for everyone. I would definitely recommend more of a recovery diet approach. So aiming to gain a certain amount of body weight reasonably quickly, and then from there, slowly gain. For me, my aim was to gain around 7 kilos, I believe it was, in was it 5 to 7 weeks? Around that. And it worked really well. I didn't quite hit that. I was a little bit below my aim, but I was close enough. But yeah, having an exit strategy is so important, and I didn't have that. I didn't have that in 2015. So yeah, there we go. I say yeah, to summarize, don't sacrifice shape for condition. That's a big one. Don't be too assertive when it comes to dropping calories or dropping macros, especially if you're self-coached. If you're coached, this is not really an issue, but it's something to be aware of. And maybe a discussion to have with your coach if you are someone who's got a coach. Posing practice, make sure you're doing it daily, really, or at least 5 days, say 4 to 5 days a week. And yeah, find out the poses that work for you because yeah, have a blueprint and then every pose should be tweaked to suit your physique. And yeah, the social media one, don't let the comments get to your head because they certainly have the ability to do that. And then lastly, exit that phase correctly because that, yeah, I've heard people say that the post dieting phase can be harder than a prep, and I can certainly understand why. Because yeah, you're directionless, you're kind of rudderless, you've got no goal now. So you've got no goal, and you've got a body that just wants to eat everything. And yeah, the combination of the two can derail a physique very, very quickly. So that's one to be aware of. And yeah, I'd say one more thing actually, one more tip, and it's more of a mindset one. But I think it's important to have the understanding that being in the contest prep is a temporary thing. Okay, so you get in, you hold that shape for a little bit, and then you get out. Don't be tempted to stay lean because yeah, obviously everyone has different set points, different settling points. But staying too lean, you're not going to be in the best place to gain muscle tissue in the future. So yeah, I'd say it's an important one just to have that mindset of this is a temporary thing. I'm going to look a certain way, and then I'm going to come back out of it. And yeah, I'd say they're the biggest takeaways from that first prep. I have some different takeaways from my last prep, but generally speaking, going into it as an older man, a more mature person, it definitely helped. And yeah, another one as well. I say just try and learn from your mistakes. Everyone's going to have a different experience going into their first prep, and it's important to really understand all of those elements, and then things that you did that were perhaps not ideal. Make sure you change it for the next time, because it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. But I'd say out of these things I've listed here, these lessons, I would say they're probably going to be the same for a lot of athletes. But yeah, generally speaking, I learned a ton from my first two shows, and then yeah, the following year I did some coaching with clients as well, and I went on to right some of the wrongs and correct some of the mistakes that I made with my clients in 2016. But yeah, I would say yeah, that's about it really. So that is all. We've just had a short one today, guys, but like I said before, we've got some really exciting guests coming on, and yeah, with it being Easter holidays, I thought this is a good chance to yeah, do a little bit of me talking and yeah, give some of my wisdom from my first contest prep. So yeah, thank you all for the comments. Thank you guys for watching and for listening, and I'll see you next time.